Very good morning. Welcome to the race dock here in Menorca for the Menorca 52 Super Series, the Royal Cup. This is the third day of racing. Let's look back and see some of the highlights so far. Well, a good second day in prospect here in Menorca. Similar kind of forecast to yesterday, so 12, 13 knots of breeze. We're racing in the same course area. Platoon go afloat with a small lead, but it's super tight at the top and anyone can win races here, as we've seen. So race 3 gets away in 9, 10 knots of breeze, still quite choppy. Off the start line with Gladiator, get out to the right early. Platoon are held up just momentarily on the start line, but get out to the right. And these are the top two boats. Round the top mark is Gladiator, Platoon and Quantum Racing. That really stays the order. Sled get through Quantum momentarily, but through the finish line it's a win for Gladiator. Platoon consolidate their lead in the Regatta, and Quantum Racing come through for a third to improve on their 2/6 previous day. So the breeze is very definitely dropping for race 4. Out on the left side, Alpha Plus get a nice shift and lead round the top mark from Gladiator, with Allegria in third, Quantum Racing in fourth. Down the run will Gladiator get through Alpha Plus and go on to record their second win of the day, and Provezza steal second on the finish line just ahead of Allegria, and Alpha Plus end up with fourth.
So we decided to stick to the right, and when we had an opportunity we jumped on it and it paid off.
We executed the plan and we got the results. We got good boat speed and Nick and Will does a good job reading the waters, putting us in good positions.
So the Menorca 52 Super Series Royal Cup standings after 4 races. Platoon leading on 11 points, second are Allegria on 14 points, and third are Sled. We are live on 52 Super Series TV for Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Stay with us all through a big weekend in Menorca. And indeed live TV for the next 3 days here in Menorca. Very warm welcome to the Menorca 52 Super Series, the Royal Cup, this big standalone trophy which is highly coveted among the owners of the TP52s racing here. We have 9 teams racing from 7 different nations, and as this is the midpoint of the regatta, we're going into race number 5, and it's also the midpoint of the season. We have 5 regattas this season, and this is the theoretical midpoint. So this is Equator Day. Now Platoon have won twice here before in 2019, 2021. They are on top of the table, just 3 points clear. They've been super consistent. And we caught up with Jules Salter, the British navigator on board Platoon, and also Vasco Vascotto. So with Jules Salter, the navigator on the Platoon. Now Jules, you've won here twice before. What's special about the race course that you like?
It's quite an open race course. And there's a lot going on. There's a bit more current here, there's a bit of sea state. The weather's quite dynamic because you get the strong winds coming out of the Gulf de Leon, and sometimes it touches here and sometimes not. Because we're here in midsummer this time, so it's a little bit different from the 2 times I've been here before. Tell us more about the current then. What generates the current here? It's mainly from the wind flow out of the Gulf de Leon, wind pressure, and I mean this week there's been some quite strong winds in the vicinity, even if not here, so that does affect the current here. Plus the med, there's always a circulation around the med, and we're sort of in the middle of it, so it does change from time to time. You love a dynamic race course, do you? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Everything's dynamic on this boat, so there's always a lot going on, so it makes it good fun. What about the season so far? There's been a few ups and downs, a few too many penalties. Would it be a fair comment? Yeah, for sure. We recognise that. And racing's got closer, so the level of sort of close incidents gets higher, and it's just controlling how you manage those situations, and the way the umpires see things as well kind of does subtly change as well, so you've got to get into their view of things to keep it clean, really. Do you have an input in the risk management side of it, or do you keep out of it? I try and keep out of it, but if I see something pretty potentially coming, I'll say let's keep it clean here, or we're in a good position, or think about the bigger picture of the whole series or whatever, but the guys do a pretty good job of managing it. A few words about Vasco. Vasco's just coming on the boat as it happens. Vasco, come and join us. But come and have a seat, Vasco. But yeah, you have different nationalities, some Latinos, Spanish, and your good self, Anglo-Saxon. How does it all work? It's sort of organised. Organised chaos. Organised. Well, it's not chaos. There is a plan, and believe it or not, Vasco is very analytical actually. So it's been interesting to sail with him again and see what he thinks on certain things. So there's a structure there, but it's, as ever with a team, it's fitting all the pieces together as quickly as you can. And under the pressure of racing, that's hard sometimes. But so far so good.
What's special about Vasco?
He's a very special man, that's for sure. He's a great competitor and knows the boat so well and knows one design racing so well and even very level rated boats so well. So it's good.
You like this race course, Vasco, particularly?
I like the race course when we are doing a good job. I hate the race course when we are behind now. It's a very interesting because it's not so clear where to go, and that's make everything challenging.
You like that kind of challenge? You're much more kind of seat of the pants sailor, shall we say, or Jules is saying you're analytical. What's your view?
Yeah, for sure. He's analytical. I'm completely crazy. That's for sure. that's a huge difference. But that's the reason why we need a very good navigator at Jules.
And the boat's going fast this year, Jules, generally?
Seems to be going well on the numbers. We made some changes before the season, so again it takes a little while to get used to those and get all the parts working together, sails and the rig, tune and the how we sail the boat. But yeah, the numbers are coming along.
How important is confidence coming back to a venue you've won at twice before?
It's not so important because when we've been here before, it's been, I think there's one was in the spring, one was in the autumn. So, like I said, it's quite dynamic. But I guess if you sort of know where the landmarks are, and Geordie knows where he is and knows where North is, it's pretty good.
And what about ashore? What do you like ashore?
Gin's pretty good on this island. Gin and tonics are good. No, it's just a nice place to be. It's relaxed and not so busy, sailing in a town rather than a city, so it's good.
And you like it too, Vasco?
Yeah, for sure. That's and then, you know what? Surveys are not bad.
You've had one or two. Anyway, thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jules. Super. So that's with the regatta leaders, twice winners here before, twice world champions, Platoon Harmüller Spears team with Jules Salter there and Vasco Vascotto. They are 3 points clear at the top of the table. They've been pretty consistent. They had one problem coming off the start line yesterday, which they fought back to get a fifth out of, and that's really the essence of doing well in the 52 Super Series. Now we're in a different race course this time. We've been racing to the northwest of the harbour entrance so far over the first couple of days. Today we're racing directly off the entrance to the harbour, and that should be perhaps a little bit less choppy. The big chop on the northwesterly racecourse has been a little bit of a problem, particularly for the helmsman, particularly on starboard tack. It's really hard to sail into that chop. So it should be perhaps a little bit different today. But we caught up with Francesco Mongelli. He's the navigator on the second-placed Allegre. And this was Francesco, and we spoke with him just before he went out this morning.
It's looking nice for sailing. A little wavy and choppy as yesterday, probably more while the day increasing. But it should be a beautiful day. I mean, a little higher, a little more than yesterday, with a sort of little front coming through from Mallorca lunchtime, around 1 o'clock. We'll see what happens. It could be pretty strong at that passage, but it's not for sure that is coming, because it could pass south of us. And then after that, it should go a little down, and but it's sailable all the day long. So a beautiful day.
Max wind strength?
Let's say normally we should see 17, 18 at that time, and but if it gets closer, it could be even up to 22, 23.
How do you monitor that?
Today is hard. Today is hard because I don't think it's super clear with the clouds. Maybe at one stage we will see the clearer sky to come, and that could be a sign of dropping after a little puff.
So that's Francesco Mongelli there, navigator on the Allegre. And just talking about the day's conditions, we're looking out with live images of the start line. Still that chop, still quite sloppy and choppy, with consistent breeze up in the Gulf of Lion, as Jules was just telling us. Hopefully we're going to join Tor Tomlinson, our underwater commentator. Tor, how is it looking?
Hi, Andy. We are out here, very glad to be back live. You probably just heard the warning signal go off there. We're in a slightly different race area today, a few miles south, and it's quite different conditions. It's quite cloudy out here, the breeze is up and down, so yeah, I think it's going to be some interesting conditions for today's racing. We've currently got about 12 to 14 knots, currently in a bit of a lull at the moment, but yeah, the start's coming up, and we're ready to go.
So what do you see as being important to say? We are at the midpoint of the season. Pretty much today in the midpoint of the regatta. What's the key things to watch today, do you think? Tor? So I think we just lost Tor there. So it is really all about consistency and avoiding the mistakes, avoiding the penalties. That's been Platoon's problem so far this season. They've had a couple of... 3 or 4 big penalties that have cost them, both in Saint-Tropez and also in Scarlino. But really, I say it's about avoiding these penalties. And these come about. We had a couple of very, very close mark roundings, and also the starts have been much, much closer, much tougher, I would say, this season, closer than ever before. And it's also hard to take places, and there's no easy comebacks from the deeper positions. Interesting to note that Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic, they are lying in 6th place just now. They, I think, had a little bit of a tough start to the regatta with 2 6ths, then a 3rd and a 6th. Struggled to get off the line at times. I think we're on board with them just now. Obviously, they have these changes to the team this year. We've lost owner-driver Doug DeVos, who's focusing much more this year on his participation in the America's Cup, one of the main backers of American Magic. And so he's not going to be joining us this season. So we have a young team, or a young afterguard with some younger sailors at the back of the boat. Principally, we've got a new helmsman in Harry Melges IV, who's really hadn't sailed the TP52 until he came to Saint-Tropez the first time. We've also got Victor Diaz de Leon as strategist and navigator this regatta. We're still missing John Kostecki. Unfortunately, John had a medical issue just before the start in Scarlino, so he had to stand down, and there was a reshuffle, brought the electronics expert from off the boat, brought him on as navigator. And this week we have Ian Moore, who's won with the Quantum Racing team, won the World Championships and the circuit. Well, he's normally with Interlodge. He's joined Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic, for the week. So it's still a few changes, a little bit of upset at the back of the boat. They've struggled just a little bit for consistency. They got that 3rd yesterday, and that was good to see them moving actually up through the fleet on that occasion. So it's been pretty tough for them, and just kind of finding their feet still, improving their communications. Yesterday we also saw a collision in the 2nd race, which really kind of upset the sled team. They were very much contenders. They got redress. The collision with Value were at fault and got 3 penalty points. So unfortunately, the team which had their first podium position of their career on the 52 Super Series, they in Scarlino, they're unfortunately down in 9th just now after that penalty yesterday. Sled very much in contention. They're only 3.5 points behind the leaders, having gained redress for that. And they're one of the teams which have won races. Platoon won the first race, Sled won the second race, and then yesterday Gladiator, a real red letter day for the Gladiator team with 2 wins, and they move up to 5th place on the standings. So we're inside 1 minute to the start. Hopefully Tor Tomlinson's back with us and can talk us through the start.
Hi, yes, Andy, just inside one minute now, and we've got Platoon and Quantum jostling in the middle of the line. Interestingly, we've got Gladiator coming in, looking to do something similar to yesterday, which obviously went quite well for them, starting a little bit late at the boat and then tacking off. So be interesting to see if they do that again. It's Platoon that's looking strong in the middle of the line, potentially a bit too bow forward. but it's looking to be a nice start for Quantum Racing and Platoon.
Indeed, Preveza just a little bit back, but good in terms of positioning on the line. I think we've got an individual recall. Bow one, I think I heard that maybe Quantum.
Yep, Quantum Racing individual recall.
But Preveza just a good start for them. They were in a nice bit of space to leeward, and we can see there that John Cutler's really done well in the time and distance on the line. We're on board there with Quantum Racing powered by American Magic having to restart and go back. Victor Diaz de Leon there with the orange socks, just checking he's clear on the line. So unfortunately that's going to cost them big time. Gladiator, as Tor said, just doing exactly what they did yesterday. Coming in a little bit late at the committee boat end of the line. Attacking early. And also Preveza started mid-line more or less. Got bow forward early, and they really, I would say Preveza kind of have control of that left-hand group, Tor.
Yeah, they've actually just tacked, following over Paprec and Gladiator here on the right-hand side of the course. It's a big, rolly chop, and it's a bit nicer on port tack coming up here. But it's Allegra just holding the group on the left-hand side of the course now, and Quantum and Alpha Plus coming out to the right after going back to the start line.
Yeah, quickly on board with Allegra. They're in second place at this regatta, 3 points behind. Real good cohesion at the afterguard between Nick Asher, just won the Melgis 24 Worlds with double Olympic medalist Will Ryan as a strategist, and Francesco Mongelli, who we spoke with, and Andy Soriano doing a great job on the helm. Early leader according to our tracking, along with Sled. Really, Allegra and Sled have been so close around most of the races so far. Gladiator, we spoke with Guillermo Parada after racing yesterday. He said the key thing for them was really finding their own piece of ocean, their own piece of real estate, as it were, getting out there, letting the boat do its work. And they're doing that again. Preveza in the middle of the course area, really. I think they're just sailing the percentages a little bit more as the circuit leaders. Value up there in second, out on the extreme left. Platoon in fourth. For me, Platoon just a little bit blanketed by Value to weather, isn't it? Or Sled? Sled, isn't it? Allegra still going on starboard. How's Gladiator looking then just now, Tor?
It's looking good here on the right. It's quite hard to see what the breeze is doing further up the course with this chop, but they've definitely sort of made their own space and are fully powered up, fully hiking, and they're kind of on their own a bit. We've got Paprec just to windward and back a bit from them, and then obviously Preveza. Platoon took a tack back and are slightly on the left-hand side of the right side, but a little bit back, as you said, from Sled, which is a shame after quite a good start there. I think Quantum might have gotten their way when they were OCS. But yeah, we've got quite a split in the fleet. Some boats going quite hard left and hard right here, so be interesting to see what pays when we get to the top.
Yeah, just a quick reminder, as I said, we're in the different race course. This is the race course that the teams practice on over Saturday and Sunday, and Monday the practice races, informal and formal, were on this race area. And for the main first couple of days, we've been out to the northwest. So teams do know this race area. Gladiator actually did well in the second practice race. So we'll see how this investment pays off for Gladiator on this right side. Our tracking shows Value and Allegri on that left side, doing rather better. But good conditions, still, as Tor said, still quite cloudy. That's what we were expecting. On board then with Allegri, Andy Soriano on the helm, hugely experienced and passionate owner. I think really enjoying his racing this season. The really great team spirit on board the Allegri. And that has helped them through one or two down days, one or two not so good days. I think that's what pulls them through. But really fighting hard. I say lying second at this regatta. Platoon just to leeward and behind sled. One of the things that Guillermo Prada was saying on this race course, you really have to be patient and wait for the breeze to do what it's doing. A long oscillation to really try to stay in phase with that. But in the meantime, it seems like still that left side is strongest. Value, be great to see the Whitcraft family team bounce back after that disappointment yesterday. Collision with sled. Really, they were in fire in Scarlino. Really in contention for the overall title indeed on the last day. Just didn't get off the line in the last two races the way they should have or wanted to. So Quantum fighting back hard, but as I said in the intro, there are no easy passes now in this fleet. Every team in this fleet can win races, and certainly can finish on the podium for regattas. On board with Quantum powered by American Magic, Harry Melges the fourth and steering. Seem to have got themselves through Alpha Plus so far. But I mean, the first Mark Rowney yesterday was so close, as it was the previous day. Can't afford to be coming in the group underlaying, but nor can you afford to be giving away a metre here or there by overstanding. So we're seeing Gladiator Tor going behind Privezza. Its right side not being quite as profitable.
Yeah, Gladiator just coming back from the right here. They were just going for the duck on. Privezza was just crossing them, but Privezza just flopped attack in there. So they must have thought Gladiator were kind of close to the ley line there. As you said, I think the lefts come strong here, which is a shame. The Gladiator plan from yesterday didn't go quite well, and the left was definitely being a bit stronger. The breeze is picking up at the top end of the course here now. So maybe it picked up on the left. Before it did over here on the right, but I think we've got about 15 knots, maybe 14, 15 knots at the top end of the course here.
So for sure, a small lead for Value, the Whitcraft family team. The 6 family members on board. It would be good to see them coming back after the disappointment of yesterday. But otherwise, Allegra and Sled have so often been racing side by side, boat for boat. That seems to be the pattern during this regatta, if not the other events this season. So Gladiator we have
just
in
a
fifth.
really costly little move there from Provezza, Andy. The sled just tacked right in front of them, and then obviously they had to tack back and have gone behind Gladiator. So just from tacking in front of Gladiator before that, a couple of mistakes. They're now ducking behind Paprec as well. So yeah, I think a few boat lengths lost there to Provezza after them, looking quite nice up there with sled and platoon on the right hand side. But no, we've got Bayou and Allegra coming in strong from the left hand side of the course.
Let's see how that plays out. Meantime, we have platoon very much staying out of trouble. Maybe the curse of the commentators, so they have to come in on port from there, but I think they're really focusing on staying clear of other boats wherever possible. So yeah, Provezza, as Tor just said, having to take a couple of sterns, but they will got themselves out closer to the starboard tack lay line. May not be terrible for them, but Provezza are pretty confident with their downwind speed. Just watching Allegra then coming in from the left of the upwind. Sled crossing in front of them. Gladiator as well. So that early right, certainly not terrible for Gladiator, and back on board with Allegra as we see that that cross. This is Vayu coming back, and Vayu will be behind sled. Sled had to race the second race yesterday with no bowsprit, but say they got redress. And so they're back in the lead. They won the second race on day one. Takashi Akura's team. Say this venue really puts a high premium on excellent helmsmanship. Whether or not pros or owner drivers. There on Gladiator we're seeing Guillermo Parada steering, Tony Langley calling tactics. If you watch, Tony is a very enthusiastic hiker as well. He's calling tactics with Guiget, who won the 52 Super Series 4 times as the helmsman and skipper of the Azzurra. I think they're quite nicely positioned there to weather off sled and on starboard. How's it looking at the windward mark, Tor? Presumably you're there.
Yes, we just got to the windward mark. Interesting to see those changes up the second half of the beat there. The left didn't seem to be quite as strong as we thought it was. And Gladiator and Paprec, who tacked out early from the start, looking quite nice in here. In fact, I think it might be Paprec that's going around the top mark first, just by virtue of Gladiator having to tack back out there. But yeah, just shows keeping clear, keeping clean, getting your own space really does let the boat do the work and get up here quickly. It's got really, really close up the top here, and we've got Paprec coming round in first, Sled in second, and Gladiator in third.
So all credit to the French team on Paprec, bow number 7, the newest boat in the fleet. Sled keeping the power on and staying clear, going round the outside of Gladiator. Gladiator round in third. Sorry, Gladiator actually in second. Then Sled third. Allegra fourth. Preveza fifth. Tor.
Yeah, not so bad after they did a bit of bouncing around the middle of that beat. They struggled to find a lane, so they did well to work themselves back up there. Yeah, but I wasn't expecting to see Platoon in sixth. They were looking really strong up that beat, but then had a couple of boat-on-boat scenarios to keep track of in the last quarter of the beat, and that's them in sixth. No surprises with Quantum and Alpha Plus bringing up the rear after being over at the start, but they're not too far behind. I wouldn't put it out of the question of them making it back up there, but yeah, Vayu going round just behind Platoon there, and Pat Preck have gone for the early jibe, with the rest of the teams opting to head out on starboard.
It's an interesting call from Jan Chateau, the tactician, on Paprec. His brother Cedric is the helmsman. The team have been putting in quite a lot of work, practicing and paying off just now. Quantum also going for the early jibe. So Paprec, Vayu and Quantum, the only boats have done the early jibe. 90 metres, I think Paprec would be quite happy with that. But a second, even if Gladiator could hold on to the second, they'd be pretty happy to go 1-1-2. So that's just a very quick update of the projected results. If positions stayed the same, we'd see sled or Platoon regatta leaders, but it's closer all the time. Platoon need to take places, well, as indeed do sled, but I think probably more opportunities for Platoon from 7th place. That's the standings just now. Sled led in Scarlino, as they did the previous year, in September last year. So great to see the French team up there. Programme led by Stéphane Neve. Still a big part of the Paprec programme is trying to encourage and bring through some younger French sailors, giving them the experience of Grand Prix racing at this top level. An all French team. Mostly out of Brittany, except for a few, I think. Hugues Destremo was originally from Toulon, I think. The Gladiator doing some nice work out on that right side downwind. Looking like they might have halved the Paprec lead. Seems like the sun's coming out a little bit, Tor, perhaps.
Yeah, we thought this cloud would start to burn off, and it is. It'll be interesting to see what that does to the wind. I guess it'll soften it a little bit maybe, but yeah, we're still all powered up with staysails up, so I reckon we've still got about 12, 13 knots. Boats on the left-hand side, right-hand side looking downwind are just starting to jibe back. Gladiator came back a little bit earlier, and as you said, yeah, I think they've closed that distance a little bit on Paprick. We'll see when Paprick jibe, but Vayu just heading back, and Quantum out here on the left-hand side looking downwind as well. So yeah, I think there's still a long way to go in this race, and if it's a bit lighter up that second beat, then it'll be the teams that get those gear changes right, potentially get the jib choice right, that'll do well.
So jibe there on Paprick, owner there at the back of the boat, Jean-Luc Petit-Huguenin, moving up to windward. Owner of the Paprick team and indeed the Paprick company. Loves a race win, doesn't get them very often, but partial to a little bit of champagne if the opportunity comes around. However, they're just ahead of Gladiator. So back on board with the Allegra there, Francesco Mongelli, navigator, who we spoke with earlier. Nick Asher just to his right. I think he's potentially just requesting the TV boat or one of the media boats to stay clear. That would be my guess. Not that I've ever seen that directed my direction. So Pravetsa up in 5th, Platoon actually having dropped to 8th just now, 7th or 8th. A little bit of a gain, I think, for Quantum we're seeing. Maybe this big early jibe actually for all these boats that jibed out to the left, Tor, seems to be paying off. Vayu jibed, Gladiator jibed, and Quantum jibed. Potentially seeing Quantum up to 4th, according to our tracking, Tor.
Yeah, this side of the course is definitely paid, and actually Quantum are coming down in a really nice puff. They look to have another couple knots on the boats on the other side of the course. The puff is just coming down, and it's going to hit Vayu and Paprick and Gladiator in about 30-40 seconds. But yeah, they're surfing down the waves on this side of the course as well, which could be helping, but definitely looks a bit stronger than the other side.
Yeah, for sure. We just saw that momentarily. We had the boat speeds up, and we saw Quantum were doing 15, 16 knots, and the averages for the others were more of the order of 11 to 12. So there you go, as if by magic, though the speeds have reduced slightly since then. But all credit to Quantum getting themselves back into this race, having been over the start line. Huge experience on board the Quantum team. As they have this younger afterguard, if you like, and a few other younger members having joined, but the speed team is the same as it always has been, and one of the best and quickest in the business. Warwick Fleury on the main sheet, James Dagg trimming along with Federico Michetti, Italian, is the other trimmer, and Sean Clarkson on the runners. Very much the engine room of the boat. But in the meantime, Paprick leading into the leeward gate. Big choice for Yann Chateau, the tactician. Jean-Charles Monet, the navigator on the blue boat. Newest boat in the fleet. They're getting around the left-hand mark, looking downwind, comfortably ahead of Gladiator. So Pat Prick comfortably ahead, then Tor.
Yes, comfortably ahead, and it's interesting to see Gladiator to split and go to that other gate. I wouldn't be. Oh, there they go, straight back onto port tack and heading out to this side of the course. They're really loving the right-hand side upwind these last few days, and yeah, I was surprised to see them go that side, but it must have just been a little bit of a shorter distance, and now they're back onto port and heading over. So it's Vayu round just behind them in third. Not so good rounding from them. They're going a little bit slow round that. And yeah, Quantum look to have themselves back up in fourth. It's going to be close with Preveza coming in here, but bit of a gap behind third now, so gives an opportunity for Pat Brett, Gladiator and Vayu to get away up this beat. The wind has dropped a little bit, so there'll be gear changes going on, and they'll be thinking about making some changes on this beat.
Yeah, it could be just the kind of prefrontal situation that Francesco Mongelli was talking about. He was saying it could potentially come through just around about 1 o'clock. He was saying you really have to watch the clouds to see whether that plays out as forecast. For sure, big change in pressure down that run, which was read nicely by the man in their foreground just now with the Red Sox, Victor Diaz de Leon. Real bundle of energy. Tactician on Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. Up to fourth, having been over the start line, still chasing their Quantum teammates on Vayu, who are third. Gladiator also on Quantum in second. Preveza made a nice little gain as well. So this is going to certainly even up the standings at the top of the table after this race. Sled dropped a long way. Allegra in sixth. So big shifts, big changes in wind pressure down that run. So Pat Prick, nice images of them going upwind. I think they're a little anomaly perhaps with the tracking's not quite as accurate. I think perhaps the windward mark's been moved on by virtue of that shift and change in pressure. There's a big shift coming down that run as we saw that Quantum red. So we're just making the request to our PRO to update that, but for sure I think Pat Prick still leaders on the water, yet just reorientated itself. Pat Prick still looking good then, Tor?
Yes, they are. If the marks have gone left a bit, then Gladiator could have gained there. They tacked just a little bit earlier than Pat Prick. Pat Prick just tacked about 30 seconds ago. So there's an opportunity for a gain for Gladiator there. I've not quite seen where if they've moved the marks to. They were at 0.70 before. Wind seems a little bit
further right.
Right of that now. Let me check. Yeah. So yeah, the whole fleet on starboard tack now, just heading upwind. Quite a shifty course. But yeah, it could be Gladiator that have taken the gain there.
Could be, as I say, we're just checking in with their PRO, who has only confirmed that the wind is shifting a lot. But I'm not sure whether they've actually moved the windward mark or not. But interesting, just being on board there momentarily with Platoon, just seeing Vasco Vescotto at work and just helping out, deciding with the trim. He's not very happy with where the breeze is going, clearly. They're down in 8th just now. It's really hard to read and account for these pressure changes and the changes in wind direction. Certainly plenty of breeze looking at Allegra there, bow number 19. Allegra dropped from 4th to 6th on that run. Sled were 2nd at the top mark and now down in 7th. Quantum's game not quite as big as we first thought, but certainly very much back in the match. So this potentially 1-1-2 for Gladiator, with Allegra and Sled 3 or 4 places behind them. You'd imagine this certainly could take Gladiator onto the podium for the regatta so far. So Paprec doing all they can just to keep the fleet in check. They have still got 60 or 70 metres of cushion over Gladiator. Gladiator under their boom and to leeward. (7.577) for Paprec so far this regatta. Team working hard, hiking upwind there. Jan Chateau just first man back after Stefan Neve and helmsman Cedric Chateau. He's calling the tactics. We're expecting a small change of course coming up. There'll be a change from the offset to the finish just to square up the run a little bit more. So everything to play for in this race, particularly in positions 3 to 7 or 8, still quite close. It's great to see different teams up at the front of the fleet. Like Paprec yesterday, who had Alpha Plus leading the top mark in the second race. Faded just a little bit, were unlucky. But still came away with a fourth. They were just pipped on the line by Kravetsa and Allegra, who really had done their work. We're just unlucky with the final shift and final little bit of pressure. But Alpha Plus team from Hong Kong really enjoying their experience on the 52 Super Series for their first season. On board with them just now, making a few changes to their crew lineup here. Got a bunch of very seasoned and skilled professionals on board, including Craig Monk and Paul Westlake. Zach Hurst joining the team for this regatta, from this regatta forward. But tactician is Andrew Wills. Ian Walker sailed the first two regattas with them, and as was planned, as was programmed, Andrew Wills of North Sails in New Zealand joining as a tactician, doing a great job. Harry Ross, young navigator. And the boat is steered by Jonathan Rankin, the project run by Steve Trebich. As of this year, then, we have two boats from Asia. Say nine boats racing here, 7 different nations. And at the moment, the Les Bleus, the French, Pat Prec leading round the top mark. Final time. As he said, the offset will be changed. We're using these Mark set bots, which are these remote controlled marks, controlled by the race officer from the committee boat, which means there's no anchor lines. And there we go, the change of course for the downwind is being signalled. Pat Prec leading, Gladiator second. So it's 290 is the axis to the finish line. Chris Hosking there on the right of picture, controlling the runners on the Gladiator. One of the most experienced sailors in the fleet, goes way back. Very, very accomplished project manager and boat builder. Built a lot of TP52s. And was indeed main sheet for the last regattas when Quantum won last year. And it'll be quite close between the Gladiator and Pat Prec, all to play for.
Really, really close between Gladiator and Pat Prec there. They both just jibed after going around the spreader mark there. I'm really impressed with Quantum working their way back up to third after being over the start. That second run was really key for them, and they've kept the work going up that beat there and coming around in third. But a big gap between second and third here. Pat Prec and Gladiator have really extended that lead. So yeah, fair play to them. Then we've got it tight behind them with third, fourth, and fifth. And you know, these are the points that really matter. There are teams that are on the podium at the moment. They'll be fighting for those 1-2 places to make sure they stay up there.
Just looking at Provezza then, the circuit leaders pursuing Quantum Racing as best they can. Provezza were obviously ahead coming up that first beat. Quantum had that great run, and it's Provezza giving chase. Provezza going for the jibe, or the jibe set. Vayu there on the right of picture, carrying on downwind. A little bit of a scrappy set for the Vayu. Part of that, I think, is this sloppy, wavy sea. So just 16 seconds between Patrick and Gladiator. So this will, as Tor was just saying, this could end up being Quantum's equal best race result here in Menorca at this Menorca 52 Super Series Royal Cup regatta so far. So Patrick jibing now, just protecting against Gladiator. Certainly trying to match them downwind. Not get them too far away, but they had a lead of 70 metres at the top. So there's a quick projected points tally. Maybe we could see that again, but looks like Allegra would take over the regatta lead if positions stay the same. There you go. Actually, Platoon would still be leading by a single point from Allegra. Gladiator would move up to third place on 20 points. Sled on 21.5. Preveza on 23, and Quantum Racing on 24. Tony Langley looking back and calling the breeze for helmsman Gege Parada. Just interesting to watch the difference between coming down with the waves, like Preveza are just now able to use the waves corresponding or contrasting with Quantum, who are going across the swell such as it is. But Allegra managing to remain consistent despite the big changes in the breeze. Keeping up the challenge. Keeping the pressure on Platoon. Allegra, you know, we keep seeing a team that have the absolute potential, all the tools in the toolbox to win a regatta. They've been close so far. They've led regattas and not managed to close it out for one reason or another. Vasco clearly not very happy with the 7th position. I think more frustrated by what the breeze has done. Big distance down to Paprec. You can see just under the Jenniker. I think at the moment Platoon just have to suck it up and fight back in the next race. But things changing a little bit in the middle of the fleet. Quantum up and down between 4th and 6th, depending. Gladiator potentially through Paprec, Tor.
Yeah, they just did really nice bit of work on the opposite side of the course to Paprec, and I had a little jibe back and gained just round the bow of them. Gladiator just jibed in front of Paprec, forcing Paprec to jibe as well. There was a slight course change going downwind, so I'd have them pretty even right now, potentially with Gladiator with a little bit in the bank now.
Yeah, it's a bit of an upset for the French in the meantime, but this race is not over for sure. Still plenty of wind pressure. Just looking at Platoon or Paprec almost surfing down that little wave. Good wind pressure, but very much split from Gladiator. But I think in Quantum were impressive for that first run and second beat. But I think you'd have to give high marks to Allegri, who have just been quietly consistent through this race, as indeed they have been through this regatta. Fourth at the top mark, fourth at the leeward gate, and still in third, and may potentially take over the regatta lead. So positions changing all the time in the race course. Paprec going into their jibe here. Helmsman Cedric Chateau there just coming out of the jibe with speed. Maxing out the power, and then we'll bring the bow down slightly, but we've got a nice lane of breeze there, I think, Paprec Tor.
Yes, Andy, and in fact all the boats coming down on this right hand side of the course, well, left hand going downwind, are coming down in a nice bit of pressure. It's really close behind Gladiator and Paprec. Gladiator have definitely got a few boat lengths on Paprec now, but behind them in third, fourth, fifth, sixth, it's really close between Allegri, Privezza, Platoon, and I can't quite see who's behind them, but it's going to be really hard to tell who's going to come down on top of that. But they're looking quite pressed. I reckon they've got 15, 16 knots coming down with them as well. So yeah, all to play for. Quantum seem to have slipped back a little bit. Platoon in quite a controlling position just behind them. So yeah, all to play for. Those points here and there are going to be so important to Platoon and Allegri on those podium positions. But Gladiator, wow, coming in for a third bullet in a row from this regatta. What an amazing performance. Sometimes you can get a bit lucky and get a bullet, but 3 in a row, that's pretty amazing.
Indeed, celebrating just as they come through the line, fist pumps all round. Once again on the Gladiator, big smile on board. The Gladiator from Tony Langley, a pat in the back for Gigi Parada. Going 3 straight. And I think that will take them up to, we reckon, third on the podium. Paprec unlucky to miss out on their first win here in Menorca, but a second, their best result by some distance. And then it's going to, as Tor said, it's going to be close through the finish line, but looking like Allegri will get third. And I think that third will almost certainly take them into the regatta lead. We'll see that with our wonderful friends from Geo Racing in a short time. Allegra through in third. Provezza through for fourth. Key for them, such as it is really keeping Quantum, their main rival for the circuit leadership, behind them. Sled sneaking through, I think, for seventh. Platoon, their worst result of the regatta so far. Indeed, with their 8th and 9th for Alpha Plus, who were over the start line. So hard lessons for the team from Hong Kong. But all credit to the Tony Langley team, the Gladiator, taking their 3rd win in a row. Unlucky for Paprec. Allegra nice and consistent. I think we'll see Allegra on the top of the table. They're presently, I think, something like 8th on the circuit standings. It's been a little bit up and down the circuit standings, but I'm pretty sure Allegra will be on top of the table with Platoon missing out. Then they were good they came back a little bit in the middle of that race, but 6th at the top mark was never really going to be a glamour race for the regatta leaders and the team which has won here twice before. However, one of the great things here in Menorca so far is we've been right up to time with races starting on time and finishing on time. So we started that one at 12:30, and I'm quite sure that Maria Torrijo, our PRO, is not going to hang around too much, and we'll get the second race off pretty quickly, and that will be an opportunity for the likes of Platoon to atone and try and challenge to get back onto the top of the leaderboard. You can see that chop, that swell that's running, but you can certainly see that on our committee boat there. So a chance for the teams now to regroup, to very quickly debrief and get some food and drink on board. Speaking of which, there's the food boxes come on board the Gladiator. Legendary Jeff Povey in the foreground there. Long time friend and associate of Tony Langley's, been on the Gladiator programme since Noah was a lad, and one of the principal grinders, battling with the main sheet at the moment. So such an important aspect is getting the food on board, getting rehydrated. It's a very slick programme on board all the boats. Let's have a quick look back at this race then. We're going to have a quick replay, masterfully edited, I think, by Lenny. So we're looking at the start. Gladiator once again coming in just a little bit late by design at the committee boat end of the line, trying to make sure they get the space. Both Alpha Plus and Quantum Racing over the line. And Gladiator going out to the right early. Paprec led round the top mark. Gladiator a little bit shy on ley line in the end, but they got round in second. Sled just round the outside along with Allegra and Provezza. But Paprec had that big lead down the first run. They were over, I think, 100, 150 metres ahead, but it was close through the lower gate, split onto opposite marks. Vayu up there at that point as well. But the nice big shift down the run was to Quantum's advantage. He came right back from third, or up to third, and there you see Gladiator come through the finish line, pat on the back for Guichet Parada, Pat Prec through in second. I think, and then Allegra through in third. I think they'll be top of the table. And a nice little shot off our natural harbour here in Mahon. And indeed, as we said, Allegra then 4-2-5, double three is 17 points. Platoon an 8th there, drops them to second for 19 points. Gladiator in contention. They had their first podium since 2017 in Saint-Tropez when they finished third, and they're on the podium just now, only 3 points off the lead, a point and a half up on sled. Pravets are the circuit leaders in fifth on 22 points. Quantum Racing on 27, still in sixth. I mean, the 4 6s and a third is uncharacteristic for the 2022 champions and the world champions. But Pat Prec in seventh now, with thanks to that second. Alpha Plus in eighth, and Vayu getting fifth in that race. And still with these 3 penalty points. So all credit then to Allegri and indeed to Gladiator. Gladiator going 3 wins in a row, and really quite an impressive scoreline so far from the Allegri. Andy Soriano's team not finished worse than fifth, and just moving to the top of the table as we pass the halfway point of the regatta. And just for those of you who are watching these things super closely, well, Preveza actually, I think they came in with a 6-point lead to this regatta, and that's what they're watching as much as anything, keeping an eye on Quantum and Platoon. That's really, I'm quite sure, influencing their risk management. It's all about who's on the top of the table, who's on the top of the podium in Puerto Portales at the end of the season. Preveza then are now 12 points clear of Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. The defending champions Platoon have finished on the podium, I think, 5 times in 10 years, and are in third. Closed the gap a little bit. They were 20 points behind coming into this regatta. Sled in fourth, Allegra up in fifth now. Gladiator looking quite good in sixth now. Vayu, Interlodge, Pat Prec, Phoenix and Alpha Plus. Of course, Interlodge and Phoenix, the 2 boats which are missing here, but they will of course be back in our next regatta, the Rolex T52 World Championships in August in Barcelona. So that's our first race done and dusted. All credit to the Gladiator team going 3 in a row. Can they go 4? Join us again in a few minutes. We'll go back to the second race of the day. Join us in a few minutes. Well, welcome back to beautiful Mahon here in Menorca for the Menorca 52 Super Series, the Royal Cup, the middle regatta of the season. We've just passed the midpoint. Prevets actually have opened out a couple more points at the top of the table, but here in the previous race, Allegre moving to the top of the regatta standings thanks to their third. Platoon get an 8th and they drop to 2nd, and Gladiator now have gone 3 wins in a row. Hard to believe, considering how they started in the first day with an 8th and a 9th, but they are up to 3rd and challenging for the regatta win. Still 2 days of racing to go. We've got one more race today. We'll go out to the racecourse just in a minute, but let's look at the standings after 5 races here in Menorca. As I said, well, actually looking at the circuit standings, first of all, well, Preveza came here with a 6-point lead, and they now have a bit more than that, but Allegre have moved to the top of the table for the regatta standings. They're on 17 points. Platoon now, who were leading into today with that 8th place, will now go to 19. Gladiator up to 3rd and 20 points after the 3 wins. Sled very much in contention, only 4.5 points off the lead with 4 races still to go. Preveza, Quantum, Paprec, Alpha Plus and Vayu. Well, its points are close all the way through the table. Everybody has a private battle, and Allegre looking now to try and close out their first regatta win on the 52 Super Series. Let's go back on the water, hopefully joining Tor Tomlinson. It's a little bit of a sultry, because of kind of slightly oppressive conditions today compared to the bright sunshine we've had for the first 2 days. But the breeze is in. Still around about 13, 14 knots on the line, something like that, Tor?
Hi, Andy. Yeah, it's definitely picked up a little bit out here. We're getting some white caps on the waves, just looking upwind. Yeah, I reckon it's building up to sort of 15, maybe even in 16 knots up there. Maria's laid the course about 30 degrees right of the last course, so we are sailing in slightly different breeze. It could have been that front that you were talking about coming in, but yeah, it's going to be a different race here, bit more breeze. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We've got Platoon, Quantum, Preveza and Gladiator lining themselves up on the right-hand side of the committee boat at the moment. Be interesting to see if Gladiator go for the committee boat and tack game for the 4th time in a row.
Yeah.
Worked well for them.
I think that's the key question for me just now. We're just starting to think, well, Gladiator have done that 3 times in a row. It's worked for them 3 times in a row. Whether anybody else tries to follow the same tactics. I think that really, by and large, the Paprec tried to do something similar and more or less pulled it off. But it's all about how Maria sets up the start line, whether she brings the pin end perhaps forward a little bit, add a little bit of bias to that end of the line. But in the meantime, as you say, it's going to be really interesting to see whether Gladiator do the same, whether anybody follow the same strategy, or indeed whether anybody tries to put a little bit of a blocker on the Gladiator. But for sure, Guille Parada, one of the best starters in the fleet, many years of experience steering, and that's what he's here to do. but they're coming in a little bit late, a little bit similar to previous conditions or situations. Tor with Pat Prek there as well.
Yeah, they were coming in hot there, just making themselves a little bit of a gap, and actually Pat Prek have reached off a bit as well, looking for a gap themselves. I think they're going to be a little bit late. Gladiator going for the sort of last minute entry in at the boat, but it's tight here up at the boat. Quantum just starting to shut the door on Allegri and Platoon. It's going to be really, really close in there.
Yeah, it's all about the skill of the helmsman on the start line. Allegri getting stuck there, sandwiched in between Platoon and Quantum Racing. And Allegri then, the regatta leaders, the new regatta leaders, are flat-footed off the line. Platoon actually are over the start line, having to go back. So not a good day at all for Harmuller Spreer's team, which were leading going into today, having to restart. Now we know that's not the end of the race by any stretch of the imagination, considering how Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic, go back into the previous race. But a good start from Preveza and Sled, and Tor Gladiator do the same again, prepared to give up a few seconds on the start line in favour of getting a nice position. Clear air out on the right side.
Yeah, they obviously think that game's working here. It'll be interesting to see for a fourth time. Platoon actually got a penalty for their antics there at the start. So yeah, over the line, went back, and have just completed the penalty turn. So super, super costly for them. That be hard to come back from that.
Preveza, the early leader, not the best of starts by Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. It's always that balance when you're trying to hold up boats from coming in at the committee boat end of the line. When you pull the pin and start the acceleration, it's a very, very fine line. We've seen it a few times. We saw it with the Preveza, I think on the first or second races. They were holding the fleet up, and the longer you stay and hold the fleet up at the committee boat end of the line, the less chance you have for the final few seconds of speed build, and that cost them early on. But anyway, that seems to be a good start from Preveza this time. John Cutler, one of the best starters in the fleet as well. Certainly that's when contributed as much as anything to their circuit leading standing at the moment, and winning the first two regattas of the season. A little bit closer then, everybody on port tack going upwind, or most of the boats going on port tack upwind, in pursuit of Gladiator. On board with Allegri now. So we have Sled as the early leader on the on our leaderboard, along with Alpha Plus and Preveza. How's it looking where you are just now, Tor?
Well, I was just thinking about Gladiator's game plan there, and I was wondering if they could cross Allegri where they are. You know, it's always a bit of a risk coming in late at the start and then tacking. You'd obviously rather have a start bang on the line and then tack. But I think Allegri might be a little bit better there, having got that slightly better start and then getting onto port. I think Gladiator would only just be bow to bow with them if they tacked now. But yeah, Preveza looking strong on the other side of the course, but it looks like the right-hand side is going to pay further up the beat.
Meantime, well, we're seeing a similar situation to what we saw in the previous race, where the Virtual tends to like the early left side. We're seeing Alpha Plus and Sled and Preveza on the left of the group, profiting early on. Remember in the previous race, Gladiator were not so good on the right. In the early part of the race then came good in the final third of the upwind. Certainly not as cut and dried after this start, but Platoon fighting back. So we think they were over the line and had a penalty, Tor.
Yeah, it just got a bit busy right at the committee boat there, and I basically don't think they had an option, and they had to stick their nose in just a little bit early, and it was just too late to bail out. So yeah, they infringed one or two boats maybe, and then obviously we're over. So yeah, you wouldn't be very happy with that start if you were on Platoon. Couldn't have gone much worse for them. But luckily they managed to just spin round the committee boat and then do their penalty. So, I mean, we saw Quantum come back really, really well in that last race after being over at the start. So, you know, there's always opportunities to get back in there. But, yeah, after an 8th place in the last race, and then that, our regatta leaders from this morning aren't having such a good day. But that leaves it wide open for the rest of the pack. Places are changing all the time. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, as you said, the breeze is round at 100, 30 degrees or so more to the right than it was off the start line first time up. You wonder whether the breeze might start to come back to the left. I don't see it going much further to the right. So I wonder how that plays into the afterguard's thinking. But for sure, Provezza nicely in control, I would say, of the group on that left. Seem to be sailing quite high and fast. Patrick in between the two boats, Quantum and Provezza. So Allegra then having to fight back. I say they were pretty flat-footed for a while on the start line. I think they were the boat that were held up by, as much as anything, by Platoon going forward on them. So Gladiator have tacked back. I think we'll see this regatta leaderboard will be pretty dynamic today. On board with Allegra there, Nick Asher. Keeping an eye out under the boom there. It's the main tactician on the Allegra. Double 470 world champion. And a recently crowned Melges 24 world champion. He was racing, or their main rivals in Middelfart in Denmark included Victor Diaz de Leon, who is of course a tactician on board Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. Great shots there of Patrick holding the champions in check. But we have to be honest, we know we're in for a lighter wind weekend. Well, certainly that's the forecast, but Menorca is delivering exactly the kind of conditions we hope for when we come here. Even though, as Jules Salter was pointing out in our pre-races interview, saying of course this is midsummer, we've not been here in the midsummer, and the island is so small, doesn't really generate the sea breezes like Mallorca does, but conditions today really great in this Mistral wind direction. So, Takashi Akura's 2021 champion sled leading. Alpha Plus, who led at this point yesterday in yesterday's race. In second, ahead of the circuit leaders, Provezza. Gladiator we're seeing in sixth on the tracking just now. So how's it looking, Tor? Where are you?
We are out on the right-hand side of the course, just next to Vayu here. I was just watching Provezza come across the bow of Paprec and just tack in front of them. They're looking nice and strong there, but it'll be interesting to see where the boat's coming in from the left. I think that's Sled and Alpha Plus coming in from over there. I believe Allegre's just forced Alpha Plus to tack. So yeah, I mean, fairly even course at the moment. Is, you know, the boats that have been managing to play the shifts rather than having to tack when another boat comes through them that are pulling ahead. So yeah, Sled and Provezza are definitely up there. Not far from the windward mark now. Time will tell.
Indeed, I'm really liking the way that Provezza are setting up coming into this windward mark. They have control of the boats to leeward, with the exception of Sled. I'm not sure how Sled are on the ley line, but for sure Provezza nicely set up. We've only got Paprec behind them and to windward, which is no immediate threat. Provezza, after that first day when we had a real raft up on the top mark, first time up. The lesson is you really can't afford to come in late on port or come in late and try and find a space at the windward mark in the lineup. So as we were just saying earlier on in the day, a couple of times, Provezza, I think it's all about risk management just now. Don't push the envelope too much, just to try and win races and win regattas. I don't think they've got anything to prove in that score, having won 2 so far. Just now it's about consistency and as Nicholas Zennstrom was always fond of saying, avoiding the shockers. Slides certainly seem to be quite high. Slightly higher mode just now than Provezza potentially, but equally you'd imagine that Provezza happy to just sail a little bit quicker and try roll down onto Sled. Just a matter of degrees here and there. On board with the Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. Victor Diaz de Leon there, Red Sox. Makes Vasco Voscotto look positively pedestrian. However, they run Paprec's weather hip. Platoon really have not managed to do anything from that side since they were penalty and over the start line. Great shots from our 360-degree cameras on board Patrick. Patrick in fourth. Sure if they came away with a 4 and a 2 today, Monsieur Jean-Luc Petit-Huguenin would be a very happy man. Even if the overhead conditions look a little bit more Breton than Mediterranean at the moment. Maybe that's what's working in the favour of the French team. They are just, in fact, or going into this race, they're just 1 point, in fact, behind Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. Or they were. So, top mark, first time up. Talk us through it, Tor.
So we've got Sled and Preveza coming round in first and second, as predicted earlier up the beat, with Patrick in third. Gladiator just held Allegra out on the inner distance mark from the top mark there, really putting Allegra back down the pack there. Quite a tactical move, I think, from them, with Allegra sitting first on the podium for this regatta. Gladiator slot in fifth, just behind Quantum in fourth. And yeah, disappointing for Platoon after their start in ninth there, but maybe pulled it in a little bit, just behind Allegri and Vayu. Close at the top though, be interesting to see what happens down this run.
Just looking then at Alpha Plus round in sixth, Allegra in seventh, and Vayu in eighth, and a long way back in the end, Platoon then. Twice winners here, leaders into today. Potentially looking at an eighth and a ninth today. On board once again with the Allegra. Just looking at Nitro Noel Drennan there, trimming the mainsail, the gloves on. Flavia Tomaselli there. So Quantum go for the early jibe. Preveza have jibed as well. So there we go. Platoon then start to pick up power coming down this run. Just kind of marginal surfing conditions. Just on the edge. Another couple of knots of breeze would be just perfect, but that's our projected standings if positions stayed the same just now. Who would have thought then Sled would be leading by point and a half over Preveza. Allegra dropping to third, Gladiator fourth, Platoon going from first this morning to fifth, albeit only 3.5 points off the lead. Super tight leaderboard down to 5th anyway. Quantum Racing, Paprika, Alpha Plus and Vayu. It's amazing, isn't it? You know, a couple of days ago you were wondering whether the Preveza run had maybe come to an end, and here they are back in contention with 2 days to go. So coming down this first run, race 6 of the series. Paprika in 4th. We're 3rd at the top mark. Maybe lost the Gladiator down this run, or sorry, they've lost Quantum down this run. Quantum really firing in all cylinders. Look at that image of them. Just when we talk about marginal surfing, they're surfing. And that's making a big, big difference down this run. They've found a lane of breeze, just as they did in the first run in the previous race. Just seem to have the speed to burn just now. Quantum doing 14.5 knots, 15 knots, something like that. Powerhouse Grinders working hard there. Setting up, I think, for their jibe. So I'd say it's still pretty close between them and Preveza coming down this run, although Quantum really have maintained the momentum. I think they've had more pressure down this left side. And for sure, as I said in the previous part of the commentary, coming down with the waves rather than across them, which you're now doing. Whereas Preveza are doing the opposite, coming with the waves now. But it's close. Really huge credit to Quantum, the way they're sailing the boat downwind. They will be behind Preveza, or Preveza will jibe in front, try and stay on the inside, but closing the door, as it were, on Preveza. Some of the best images we've seen this season from our internationally famous drone pilot. Coming back, or Preveza closing back at Sled. Sled are not quite as quick on that jibe coming downwind, but still close between the top three. Gladiator going round the left, coming downwind. On board here with Gladiator, big Mo Grey on the aft pedestals. Chris Hosking there on the runner. think they're up to 4th. Certainly I've got through Paprec. Platoon made a little bit of a gain, perhaps. Tor, we're seeing them in 6th on this run. Another quick boat downwind.
Yes, I think so. Again, like the last race, the left going downwind is paid, and you can probably see from the images, but the breeze has picked up, a couple knots, and they're properly sending it out here on the left. They're all, jibs up rather than staysails, bows up a little bit, and coming in hot down to this bottom gate. It's going to be very close between Quantum and Preveza coming round here. It looks like they're opting for the opposite gates to each other. So Preveza rounding just in front of Quantum with Sled Knot close behind. Looks like Gladiator have made a gain on Paprec in 4th. And yeah, as you said, Platoon potentially coming in for a 6th there, which would be, really well done from them after their start.
Sure, if they felt that they could take another couple of places down the final run, that would be a result. But just watching Quantum round the right-hand mark, looking upwind. Sled going on the left, looking upwind. And Gladiator will remain 4th. Paprec round in 5th. Oh. Tony Langley there having to climb the north face of the Gladiator to get up to the windward side. But a really great race. Probably as much breeze as we've seen for a good few weeks of 52 Super Series. One day of 16-18 knots in Saint-Tropez from what I remember. Carolina was mostly light to moderate, but certainly no seaway. And Preveza proving they can do it in the stronger breeze as well. As indeed are Quantum Racing and Sled. And in that mix, you would have to give extra high points for Mr. Akura as the only owner driver in the top 6 or top 7 just now. So Platoon getting themselves out to the left, certainly to be clear of Paprec upwind. Gladiator still working their favoured right, as they seem to like. They're on the second beat, race number 6 of the series. Should say 2 races Saturday, 2 races Sunday. Fingers crossed, touch wood. So Allegra pretty deep in this race, Tor, unfortunately. Just at the point when they'd reached the
yeah, they're pretty deep.
pinnacle.
I just just saw them doing spins just before they went round the bottom mark there. They dropped their spinnaker early and did a turn. So I didn't see what the incident was, but yeah, obviously they got flagged by by our jury, and we're doing spins there. So yeah, they were probably in 8th or 9th anyway there. So their situation probably caused them to slow down a bit. But yeah, turns were done, and now they're pretty deep in 9th there, which isn't great for them after leading going into this race. But it seems to be the curse of the first place in this regatta. You get up there and then you're at the back. So yeah, whose turn is it next?
It's kind of like that, but it's kind of the story of the season, or the story of the first 2 regattas in some senses has been early leaders, and then we've seen in particular Quantum and Preveza coming through progressively. Quantum falling short, Preveza winning both regattas. But we did great. A nice interview. We're doing, once again this season, we're doing 2 26-minute documentary programmes which will be widely aired. Our Drive to Live programmes, and we sat down with John Cutler, hugely experienced helmsman on the Preveza. We're just talking with him about the pressure of the final days and how they've been a team which, when they've been in the frame in the final day, they've generally delivered. Kind of ahead of expectation, if you like. But they're in a boat race just now with Quantum racing for sure. Quantum on course for their best race results so far this week in Menorca. Clear of Sled. Sled won the second race. Cast your mind back to day one. It was Platoon who came off the water with a 4-point aggregate. Allegra were 6, and so too were Sled. So a few key modifications to the Preveza over the course of the winter. They put on a new keel fin, changed their sail designer, and also brought on Grant Loretz as a trimmer. Many times America's Cup winner. So he's brought his influence to the sail program, which was previously, of course, run by Juan Messiger, who's gone to the American Magic, America's Cup team. And a fact that we I think all too often overlook in the case of the Turkish flag team is that Ergun Imri still has 2 amateur, that's to say unpaid professional or non-professionals on board who've always sailed with them. Togan Alper is the pitman, and Kivanc Sevenic is on the mid-bow. Long time members of the Preveza program. So maybe a small gain on that left side according to our virtual, but we'll wait and see. I'm not convinced. Nonetheless, Quantum working this right side. Preveza keeping their main contenders covered, at Sled and Quantum. Again, you kind of, in these situations, you're looking at maintaining your points over your nearest rivals for the circuit title, them being for sure Sled and Quantum and Platoon. So when Hamish Pepper and Colle Parada are looking at their options where they want to go, that's what influences them more than pushing the envelope, pushing out to the flanks to try and make a big win, big race wins. Just now it's as much about keeping Quantum, putting another 2 points on Quantum and Sled and Platoon where they can. A little bit of a gain in the left from what we see, certainly Sled up to second, Paprec up to third, according to our tracking. I think our onboard camera is lacking any kind of self-leveling. It makes it look like a lot of pale on board on Quantum, though great images though. Tacking at the same time as Sled offshore of them. In the meantime, Sled doing good work on the left. Preveza just trying to keep the cover on the boats advancing from behind. Gladiator in the mix. I think this top mark's going to be interesting, Tor, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The breeze just seemed to clock left a little bit there at the middle of the beat, and Preveza really made a nice gain there. But it's definitely made the sort of pack just behind them a lot tighter. In fact, I think Platoon might have made a gain or two up there. It's got very bumpy.
Even more bumpy.
Yeah, it's pretty lumpy bumpy, and the breeze is certainly picking up. So, yeah, it's shifting around. I think we will see Preveza and Sled up there in the top, but yeah, Platoon really made a nice gain up there.
It's kind of interesting because I'm no expert. I did just remark earlier on that with the breeze right round at 100, I couldn't see it going any further to the right. If anything, it might come back. So it does seem to be what it's done a little bit, coming back to the left. But Preveza doing a good job of staying on top of that without exposing themselves or having to push out to the left. So the points aggregates as projected just now would see it couldn't be really much closer between Preveza and Platoon and Sled. It's all about who gets round this windward mark and downhill first. But as the Quantum guys are so fond of saying, it's really only about getting into the last day and being in contention. But for sure, the days are long gone when teams dominated this circuit. You could almost put a big bet on who was going to win a race right now. It's anyone's race on any given day and any given breeze. But for sure, Preveza then doing fantastic work. Winners off both regattas so far this season. You could argue they're laying claim to the third win of the season at this point, but especially just watching Quantum going behind Sled and Paprec. So top mark for the final time of the day. Provezza leading, Sled second, Paprec in third. And at the moment, the top scoring boats today are potentially, wait for it, Provezza and Paprec. However, still a bit of sailing to go in this race. Bow number 4 then, the Gladiator bouncing round the top mark. Setting up for the kite hoist on the offset. Bowman out the front there, Matt Cornwall, hugely experienced bowman, setting up. Hoist is called on the Gladiator. Murray Gray continuing on the pumps. Jeff Povey getting his weight on the rail. Alpha Plus coming through. What a great sight. Fantastic conditions here in Menorca for this race number 6 of 10. Dynamic race course, dynamic place changes through the race. And Ergen Imre's team, who have won 2 regattas so far this season, are on top, leading the 2021 champions Sled. Paprec in the mix. They're being pursued by the defending world champions. Great overhead shots just in front of the Provezza Sled, giving chase in second, Paprec in third. Great aerial shots then flying over the circuit leaders, Provezza. Going into their jibe. Nice jibe from Provezza. Looking very much like they will be the regatta leaders if positions stay the same. Platoon would drop to third. Still a bit to go on this run though. But look at Allegri. Allegri were leaders going into this race. Just breeze has dropped very slightly. I think it'll be quite puffy coming down the final stages of this run. Platoon up to 5th, just behind Quantum Racing powered by American Magic, and I'd consider that Platoon were over the start line. Sled a little bit more wind pressure perhaps on the right side, looking downwind. Back on board with Quantum Racing powered by American Magic, looking at that's Scott Ewing being joined by Matt Cassidy on the pumps, I think. Ian Moore, navigator on the new runner. So Provezza split away from the fleet down this run. John Cutler on the helm there. Nacho Postigo, the navigator with the hat, grey top. Hamish Pepper, the tactician there, just beside John Cutler. And they're making their, what I think will probably be their last jibe. Two seconds so far, 4th in the first race today. I'm wondering whether Platoon have made a nice gain down this final run, going out to the right. Very opposite of what Provezza have done. And the wind pressure has been certainly down the left of the runs. But I wonder whether Platoon have got more of a shift. Of course, Vasco Viscotto works with strategist Jordi Calafat from Doyle Sails, only in the boat in the fleet here with Doyle Sails at the moment. So Gladiators, a run of wings, run of wings, run of wings. Run of winds, even, comes to halt. They're looking like a 6th just now. And Provezza's potential to win their 3rd regatta of the season is elevated by this comfortable lead now. Almost 200 metres ahead of Sled. Quantum in 3rd, Platoon in 4th. And Quantum and Platoon on opposite sides of the race course. Breeze has certainly dropped considerably coming down this run. Compare this to the previous run when they were fully arced up. Everybody at the back of the boat. So for sure credit also due to our race officer team of Maria Torrijo and rest of the team, really super efficient, getting us out on the water early, getting the best of the conditions. And you'd have to also give high marks to Francesco Mangelli, our Italian navigator on the Allegra, who gave us a nice little interview on the dock this morning. And they may be in 8th place just now. And they may have been leading going into this race, but he was spot on the money with his weather predictions. They were just unfortunate off the start line, and they were unfortunate to get a penalty at the leeward gate. Patrick Quantum and Platoon all swapping places all the time down this run. I think this will be, not that they need it, but I think this will be a nice little confidence boost to Prevezza. Not saying they're overconfident, their feet very much are on the ground. John Cutler said the other day, he said, we're just taking it every start, every race as it comes. Not getting ahead of themselves. So the race win there, race number 6, win goes to Ergen Imre's circuit leaders Prevezza. Comfortably clear in the end of a second place sled. So waiting for sled to come through the line. 7th in the first race, 2nd today, 9-point aggregate for the day, the 9-point fleet. Averaging mid-fleet then, really, aren't you? Nevertheless, a good second for them. Looking in the end like Quantum Racing have called this right. Coming in from the right of the run. And a much more profitable jibe than Patrick have. So for sure, Tor, I think the breeze shifting around quite a lot on that run.
Yes, Andy, definitely shifting around and really ending up being quite light after being pretty strong in the second run. So yeah, big up and down race. So quite big shifts as well, which some of the teams managed to take advantage of. I think Quantum did well coming away with a third there. Yeah, absolutely hats off to Platoon as well after that start, and then a penalty at the start. They're just coming over the line in 5th now, I think. I'd definitely be happy with that after the start for them. And Gladiator just pipping a 6 after their line of bullets.
So Prevezza then will actually be our top scoring boat of the day with a 4th and a 1st. And second highest or second best scoring today is Paprec with a 4th and a 2nd, or a 2nd and a 4th. Allegra pulling back to 7th. Getting a couple of places on the final round. Eighth then is Value. And the 9th then will be Alpha Plus. So all credit to the Preveza team. Second at the top mark behind Sled, first time up. Good run from Preveza and indeed Quantum Racing. Quantum Racing were up to second on that first run. They really were powered up, got a nice shift, moved up through the fleet. And Sled also came back on the second upwind, got themselves back into contention, as did Paprec. But down the final run, it's Preveza well clear in the end of Sled and Quantum Racing. Paprec in 4th, Platoon 5th and Gladiator 6th, Allegra 7th, Bayou 8th and Alpha Plus 9th. So let's have a very quick look at Lenny's highlight recap, and we'll see off the start line. Platoon were over the line early and had to recross also. But a penalty. Gladiator started late, went out to the right. But also essential to remember that Preveza really did have a good start, as did Sled. Sled reading round the top mark with Preveza in second, Paprec up there in third, Quantum in fourth. Now this run was really electric for Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic. They got themselves up to second round, the Leeward Gate, with Preveza leading. But really after Preveza were through, Sled just were able to sail their own race, keep a loose cover on the fleet behind, and with a big win for them, sailing really nicely, super confident down through the finish line. The win is for Preveza. Second through is Sled. Then Quantum Racing. That's Quantum's joint best score of the regatta so far. In fact, it's their second, third, otherwise they've all been sixths. So there's the standings just now then. Preveza leading by half a point, only half a point, after 6 of 10 races here at the Menorca 52 Super Series Royal Cup. Sled in second, Platoon in third, only half a point behind them. Tied on points with Allegra. Gladiator on 26th and 5th, then Quantum Racing on 30. Paprec 32, Alpha Plus on 42, and Value on 46. So really nothing in it between first and fifth. Who would be predicting who's going to be on the top of the table come Sunday late afternoon with our prize giving for the Royal Cup? At the moment, you'd have to say that the momentum is really with the Preveza. And just a quick look there, actually Preveza opening up points on Quantum all the time. It's now 14 points ahead. They were 6 points coming in. So Preveza doing some good work here. Quantum in second, Platoon 7 points behind now in the third. Sled in fourth, Allegra fifth, Gladiator sixth. But really, see where this is the, you might call this the equator day for the season. This is the theoretical midpoint. Preveza will take great confidence from that. They're sailing really nicely. We're thinking it might be just a little bit lighter over Saturday and Sunday. Maybe we'll see some changes in the race winners, but it's going to be very different. Well, we expect it to be very much different. We're looking at maybe 5, 6, 7 knots of breeze. That's our forecast. The forecast which has been with us since the start of the week, but really anything could happen. It's been a great series so far here in Menorca. Menorca delivering good conditions all the way through. Join us over the weekend. We'll be live through all the races here, and as ever, if you've got any questions, do post them on our social media channels. We've got loads of experts around here. and have a quick look at. We'll join you tomorrow.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down.